Welcome, everyone. My name is Keijun Lee. I'm the GM of Workspan's Cloud Ecosystem Solution. And we help companies automate their co-sell processes with the major top cloud service providers, AWS, Microsoft, Google. I work with a lot of startups in my role. And what's top of mind for many of them is how do they leverage partnerships as a force multiplier for growth, to access more customers, scale revenue growth. And some will turn to traditional resale partnerships and other distribution partnerships. But one relatively new model coming up, gaining ground, is co-selling with the hyperscalers, these cloud providers that I just mentioned to you. And that's become a sought after growth engine for many startups. And I'm here with two heads of alliances at fast growing startups, Devin and Brian, and we'll be talking more about this topic. I'll do a quick intro. Brian Lang is a VP of Strategic Alliance at Orca Security. Orca is a leading company in the cloud security space. They are the provider of cloud native application protection platform. And last year, they grew 800% year over year. Devin Solberg, he's a VP of partnerships at Redox. And Redox is a platform that helps healthcare providers and payers connect and share healthcare data. And they have grown tremendously as well. They are now at the widest reaching network for interoperability, for sharing healthcare data. And they have all the top hospitals across the country. Very impressive, both of you. And I'll be speaking to both of them about their co-sell journey. So let's get started. Brian, love to hear more from you on how Orca Security got started with co-selling with AWS, Microsoft, and Google.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Really started with first, our platform. We're a SaaS offering. It's built on the cloud, so it's a natural extension to take advantage of the various cloud marketplaces. Also, Google is an investor, so we get sort of two of the three major cloud providers right there. And what we found is one of the big drivers of the cloud co-sell is around the sort of committed spend that customers have. So what happens is a customer, say, has a committed spend of $1 million, but they haven't spent all their Amazon dollars. They can use those dollars to purchase products like Orca and consume their committed spend with Amazon, Google, Azure, etc. And that is a very natural tie-in to working with the partners, as is just the fact that those cloud sellers, they want to encourage their customers to spend more in the cloud. Us being a security company, we give people confidence in their security posture, which encourages them to further spend more in the cloud. So all of those sort of naturally made a good path for us to work with the cloud partners along with our other normal resellers and MSSPs.
Okay. And Brian, who did you start co-selling with first? Which cloud provider?
We started with Amazon primarily because that seems to be where people naturally gravitate to first. We do see some differences between, Azure seems to be more enterprise or mid-market to small enterprise focus, people wanting to just do normal office infrastructure. Google tends to be focused more on analytics. Amazon seems to be focused more on digitally native applications, cloud native applications, plus their partnership ecosystem's a little bit more further along from a maturity level than the others. So that's where we started.
I see. So you started with AWS and then expanded to the other two.
Correct.
After, okay. Great, thanks. Devin, how about for Redox? Tell me a bit more about how you got started with the co-selling motion and who you started with first.
Sure. Yeah, our motivation to start engaging directly with the cloud providers started as we observed a growing percentage of total healthcare spend being architected by the clouds. So Redox is a healthcare exclusive solution. So we focus a lot of our attention on where the buying patterns are in healthcare, both from a provider, payer, and digital health perspective. And we just saw a growing percentage of wallet being transacted via the cloud. So that's what originally made that kind of put that on our priority list. And we've seen that play out over the last 3.5, almost 4 years since we started our cloud co-selling journey. Similar to what Brian mentioned, we first engaged with AWS, maybe for some different reasons. Our product was originally natively hosted on AWS. And so there was a lot less friction to start that marketplace conversation. Um, the buyer's journey is really different across the three clouds. And I think Brian, what Brian mentioned about the different kind of product emphases that each cloud has is a pattern that we've observed too. AWS was a natural fit for us at the beginning. And as we started to gain traction and kind of prove the model internally, it's a different sales motion. We had to invest in some slightly different product alignment. As we did that, that opened the door for us to engage directly with Microsoft and GCP to the extent now where we have a successful go-to-market motion with all three.
I see. Now I want to dive deeper into what this co-sell motion looks like and how that works. Devin, for your company, how do you engage with the sellers at these cloud providers? What does that look like? How do you engage them on a deal?
Yeah. So first, some context. I would say our kind of native go-to-market motion for Redox is a direct sale. So we have an SDR and an AE team that goes and outbounds and engages. We attend conferences. We have a very ground game-esque go-to-market motion, which has served us really well. When we started to engage with the cloud hosting providers, that was a totally different motion. And what was originally a direct to consumer now changed to a direct to seller conversation. So we've had to staff up, we've had to level up our talking points around not just the customer value props, but aligning to a reseller, a co-seller. So what is it? What about Redox is compelling to an AWS or a Microsoft or a GCP rep? What do they care about? What is their timing? In a lot of cases, we're not helping those reps close deals. We're helping them upsell and support their existing customers in a more robust way. And so there's just a different value proposition and a different value delivery narrative that we've had to level up on our marketing side, on our product marketing side, on our positioning, on our intro calls, on all the way through to our account close. Well, we started that journey by kind of doing small A/B tests. How aligned or how helpful is our existing go-to-market narrative with the sellers? And over time, we've gotten to the point where we now have dedicated sales channels for each of those three cloud verticals. We have an Amazon channel, an Azure channel, and a GCP channel that has channel leads, demand gen, solution engineers, and account directors that, frankly, are versed in the terminology that the cloud reps expect us to be. And that's really helped accelerate or move friction in that go-to-market sale.
That's great. And I've seen across startups that this is a new muscle that they need to build up and investments that need to be made, not necessarily initially. And similar to what you've done, you started smaller and you've expanded to a point where you have dedicated sales teams for each cloud provider. So that's great insight. Brian, how about for Orca? In terms of what does your co-sell motion look like with these cloud providers?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to what Devin said. To tie in a little bit of the, it is a slightly different selling motion. I mean, ultimately, it does overlap somewhat with how you would sell through a reseller. You're ultimately working with a partner to help you at a target customer, help you get into a target customer, and work through that relationship. The difference is that you do have to speak more of the terminology that the cloud providers speak. You have to understand, for example, that EDP, that committed spend. You have to understand how the cloud spenders get comped when working with you. The biggest struggle I think we've had is typically I see, and this falls into resell as well. Sellers typically reach out to partners for one of three issues or reasons. Two of them being issues, one of them being not an issue. But one, like, hey, I can't get into this customer. Can a partner help me get there? or hey, I'm in this customer and we're having an issue, we need to get somebody more senior, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So then they call in the partner to help with that. But with Amazon, you get far more with the third category, which is just that influence that Amazon, Google, Azure can have on the selling process. So even if you don't have an issue from the first and second one, just having them there and speaking on your behalf, knowing that the engagement's going on, talking to the people over there and saying, yes, we work with Orca, yes, we work with Redox, etc. That has a big impact on the revenue. And AWS likes to talk about this report they did, and I apologize because I always forget the numbers, but it's like faster sales cycle, greater ASPs, but you're not going to get that by simply calling on them for problems. By getting them engaged when you don't have a problem, they're more likely to help when you do, because they're getting comped on a sales cycle that's where there's not a problem. And there's that sort of intangible influence revenue, which really comes into play when you're working with those partners. On top of that, it's really sort of understanding how you can use any partner, and just having sort of that, I don't want to say rules of engagement, but just having that understanding of what can the partner do for me, and also being very clear that when the hyperscalers are helping you, it's not like a reseller. Resellers in there, you're giving up 10, 25, whatever points of the overall deal. Whereas when a hyperscaler is helping you, unless it also goes through the marketplace, you may not be giving up anything. They may simply be helping you because your product helps them grow their consumption of the hyperscaler's product.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good distinction you called out between co-sell and resell. And Brian, you mentioned a couple of key metrics earlier. For your company, what would you say are the main goals or metrics that you're looking to improve with the co-selling motion?
So, everybody looks at, hey, I would love the hyperscalers to feed us leads. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail other than we don't necessarily, well, that's a goal. That's not our primary goal. It's sort of more like, hey, if we get partner sourced opportunities, great. It's icing on the cake. What I'm really looking at goes back to some of those metrics I just mentioned a second ago. I'm looking at, for example, where are deals that the cloud provider influenced it, where my sales cycle did actually drop down, that the ASP was higher. One of the other things that I also track is, because we sell through the hyperscaler marketplaces, we also get around contracts. We can use the EULA from the hyperscaler. If you can get your legal to approve that, I highly recommend it, because it can shave literally a month or more off the end of your sales cycle, because they've already gone through the hyperscaler's EULA. They've already accepted it. If they can accept it for your product, that means they don't have to review it for you, and that all gets removed from the sales cycle. So I'm really looking for those types of things, and that's why we've gone from increased our revenue through marketplaces by more than 10x over last year, and I'm expecting similar growth through the marketplace next year. Well, not 10x next year, but expecting growth there again is because we're monitoring and seeing that our sales cycles are lower. I mean, this is one of the reasons we went with Workspan, because frankly, my team couldn't manually enter the stuff in the partner deal registration systems fast enough. It's just too manual. So Workspan lets me go, oh, if it's in the POC stage or this, and this in our sales cycle, push it into the partner portal. And that lets me force that influence side of the equation, and then I can monitor it.
I see. Devin, how about for Redox? What are some key metrics that you're tracking, you're looking to improve?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what Brian said in terms of kind of the top of funnel metrics, but for us, we really track top line revenue of partner influence deals. And sometimes that means that the partners are bringing us into conversations, and other times we are leaning on the influence factor of saying, because we are connected via the clouds, that elevates the level of leadership that we're engaging. And I measure that in really percent of wallet that we're asking for. When our SDRs and AEs are approaching a contact, we're probably talking to a middle manager or a VP level, and we're asking for X percent of their wallet. When we are aligned strategically with the clouds, we tend to talk to 2 or 3 levels higher, and our ACVs are higher, even though the percent of wallet that we're asking for is far less. So I track both of those. Top line revenue is obviously king. Some of the questions, Ty and Robbie, you've mentioned are actually aligned to that. What percentage of total revenue flows through hyperscalers? At Redox, we're targeting about 40% of total revenue, total net new revenue, flowing through cloud influenced deals. Not all cloud generated, but cloud influenced. And then another question that I think speaks to that Robbie mentioned that aligns, Kijun, to your question of just why have we siloed our channel, our go-to-markets by provider? And that actually speaks to your question, Kijun, of what are we measuring? Each of the clouds have a very distinct go-to-market motion that they play with their customers, right? Brian highlighted that early. They each have strengths, they each have weaknesses. They're constantly trying to compensate for those weaknesses. And what we have found is that if we have a lead come in via an AWS channel, we need to respond in a different way than when we have a lead come in from Azure or GCP, and vice versa. And so that's allowed us to track really carefully how we respond, and do so in a way that really caters to the cloud seller. The last thing I'll say too is that in each of those verticals, it is a product decision on whether to co-sell with a hyperscaler. I think that's a learning that we had early on. Like I said, we've been on the co-sell journey with clouds for about 3.5 years. It started, as I think it does at most customers or most partners, most companies, as a sales decision. We want to increase our sales by opening a new sales channel. What it actually is a product commitment to have a cloud aware product. Redox was a fairly agnostic platform. We can deploy anywhere. We can support customers on any platform. That was true even before we started co-selling. As we started getting into co-sell, that agnostic message eventually gets stale on the shelf. And we need to start having really specific cloud aware and cloud incentivized narrative that needs to be true across the three. So product and product marketing has been a huge thing that we've invested in, that we didn't start out thinking that we would need to invest. We thought our product was ready for prime time across the clouds, and it really was. We really did need to develop features that made us more cloud aware.
That's valuable insight. I think that's going to help a lot of startups looking to invest in co-sell motion, that they need to think about it holistically. They might start out more focused on sales and go to market, but be ready to go deeper and expand into the product fit as well. Brian, if you can share an example of your ideal co-sell deal that you want to see more of in your co-sell motion overall.
Yeah, I think this goes into sort of I'll start to bring in other partners. The more we really look for partners outside of the cloud partners that are cloud first. I sort of lump them into 3 categories. There's cloud aware partners that do a little bit of cloud, they know how to spell it. There's cloud focused. Hey, we see the cloud, we've got lots of services, we're trying to move there. And then there's cloud first, and they're the ones that are most of their revenue is built up in and around the cloud. So a good a great cloud or co-sell motion for us is actually working with one of those partners that is doing cloud migration projects, because that gets the cloud provider's interest. They already have the customer's interest, and they have to do it in a secure fashion. So that leads to a very natural inclusion of Orca. So those are the ones, and it also happens to be nice because it's a big focus around what Amazon is doing right now. And I've seen a number of the people commenting, asking questions around, how you get sort of the interest of the big three. And I think this sort of ideal co-selling motion factors that in, knowing that Amazon is trying to get deals and is comping their salespeople on bringing a services partner, Amazon, and a product company into the same selling motion is ideal, because if you can tie into what they're already doing and how they're telling their salespeople to function and operate, then it makes a very natural way for you to tie into that selling motion. I'll also throw in that, if your partner development manager gives you an opportunity, the faster you respond and the better you take care of the offer they're putting in front of you, the more likely you're going to be to get additional opportunities with the cloud providers. They have lots of partners. The partner development managers are typically dealing with 5, 10 or more partners.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can respond, they might put an offer out to 3, 4, all of their partners. So the more you can respond, they'll start to go to you first before all of their other partners, because they know they can get an answer from you. So it's really tying together and understanding what their selling motion is. And that can change over time. They might have certain promotions, certain things they're trying to encourage their sales team to do. So you really want to keep up on that. But our primary one is tying together cloud first services partner with a cloud provider and the product.
Thanks for sharing, Brian. Devin, how about for Redux? You mentioned earlier that when you engage in co-selling, you can go up a couple levels to the exact buyer. If you were to kind of paint ideal deal, co-sell deal that you've run and you'd love to see more of, what would that look like?
Well, it almost always starts with the customer already having a sizable commit to the cloud for the next year. So that could be anywhere from we're gonna spend 10 million on AWS next year. We're gonna spend 30 million on Azure. Or we're gonna spend 80 million on GCP. The customer starts with that and has committed that because they have a broader initiative or a large strategic priority that they're looking to build out. And we can understand through our relationship with the cloud seller what those priorities are, what is the what are some of the key things that we can influence, and then it really boils down to compute. And I think we've talked a little bit today about what motivates the cloud sellers. It is compute on their platform. It is spinning their cores. And I think that the going from, hey, we hope that you'll bring us into deals, versus if you bring Redux or Okta or Orca or whoever else to the table, we're going to influence 20K more a month in AWS spend or 30K more a month in Azure spend, whatever it is. And we can frame it up in terms of that compute. That is the unifying value metric that, in our experience, the cloud sellers care about. That's what their VC plans are based on. That's what their products are aligned to. That's what their services are deployed to optimize. How they model that, how they group them together for their customer, that is very cloud specific. But the underlying KPI is compute. And so as we align our marketing and our deployment to that value prop, it eliminates so much friction. There's clear alignment on why they should bring a partner in that helps accelerate their core goal, which is to spin more core.
Got it. And we'll switch to a different topic. Having managed your co-sell partnerships with 3 cloud providers now for a number of years, what would you say you learned as a key, let's say a core tech stack for co-selling?
For Redux, so we do use Workspan primarily to help facilitate Well, I should say each marketplace is really important to the cloud co-sell. So that is how deals are transacted that can influence the customer's commit spend. So if a GCP customer wants to spend money on Redux and they want that money to be applied to their GCP commit, it must transact via the marketplace. And that's true for Azure, and that's true for AWS. So I would highly recommend anyone who's considering a hyperscale go-to-market motion to spend some reps on what the marketplace is. I see Kate in the comments. We've used Tackle in the past to help with accelerating that marketplace listing. Workspan helps with lead exchange and back and forth. And then we use PartnerStack also to help facilitate partner-specific collateral and deal registration.
Brian, how about for Orca?
So some of the same stuff that Devin said. Some of it also goes beyond that. I mean, I see Ty just posted a quote around ROI for compute on the calculation. Apparently, not a lot of companies do. In fact, a couple of the PDMs I've been working with have never seen anybody deliver it. I went and did some Tableau analysis to actually go through and look at how a customer's cloud spend increased in the first year after using Orca, and then could compare that to the market norm of, hey, the cloud typically grows by 20%, but a customer on Orca grows by 60%. And then you take that to the sellers, and they love that because hey, if I'm going to work with two partners, who am I going to work with? The one who's growing cloud usage by 60%, or the one who's it actually grows slower or still grows at sort of that normal 20%. And it's not 20%. I can't remember what the exact number is. In terms of other tools, we do a lot to track even some basic ones. Like I have a Google group created for each cloud partner, and every time we interact with a seller, for example, at AWS, I have my team email aws@orca.security so that the whole team knows about that engagement point. It just keeps everybody informed. And I think that's the big thing, is just having people continue to hear and also post on our internal Slack channels around the success that we're having with the partners. Because much like Devin was saying earlier, that as much as this is a selling decision to go into the cloud, there is a lot of product decision, but there's also just that ongoing education you need to keep your sales team remembering that working with a hyperscaler partner is not necessarily giving up margin like it is with working with a reseller.
Yeah, great points all around.
Definitely. We have about a minute or so left. I'd love to hear from both of you, starting with Devin. Any final advice you have for startups looking to start their co-sell journey?
All of the clouds have really strong marketplace teams that can guide you through what that program looks like. That's where I'd recommend starting if you don't already have a customer that is pushing you for that. Connect with them and they'll walk you through how to get started. All three have really strong onboarding processes, and don't try to boil the ocean.
Yeah, I'll do a similar thing to Devin, except for I'll actually be somewhat oppositional and say that I found more success doing the same thing he described, but with the partner development manager, because that will tie you more into the overall relationship with AWS, which can include the marketplace, but also includes it's just the partner team tends to be more connected in with the back-end platforms of AWS, as well as how to get into the other seller communities, like the ISV managers, et cetera, around the world.
Great advice, both of you. Devin, Brian, thanks so much for joining this session. Love hearing about your co-sell journey and all the actionable insights you provided today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kijun.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.